how do I distinguish my attachment fears from my intuition? Have you ever felt as if your feelings or emotions were really compelling you beyond your better judgment, right? Maybe you've experienced butterflies in your stomach and you felt like that was getting confused with a sort of fearful anxiety coming up around the relationship. And so you might find yourself wondering, does that mean that all butterflies are bad? What about gut intuition? What about my instinct about something? Is it really just my nervous system that keeps getting triggered, or is there something to this? Can I have a genuine sense about something that I can trust, right? Whether it is good or bad for me. So in my online community, a lot of individuals share this question. And if you can relate, then this next segment is going to be for you. So first, we're going to define what are our intuitive butterflies versus a triggered attachment anxiety, or let's call it a survival response, and how can we tell the difference? And then we're going to explore an experiential activity to help you sift and sort through the role that, let's say, your inner child and your inner critic might play in this dance between intuition and attachment anxiety. So I invite you to grab a pencil and paper and just stick with me until the end of this segment. So the first thing I want to address, defining attachment anxiety versus our genuine intuition. Okay. So let's just restate the question. How do I distinguish my attachment anxiety from my gut intuition, right? My instinctual intuition, some higher knowing, let's call it. So I believe that not all butterflies are bad. It doesn't mean that every situation in which you have butterflies, that it's a bad situation, okay? It just means that it's likely that you should pay attention, right? There's information that is important for you to acknowledge here. And it's a call for you to use your discernment so that you can qualify the information you're receiving and make meaning of that experience. So one way to do this is to really just drop in and dialogue with the feelings you're having in the moment through things like meditation or creative activities. And that's going to allow you to lean into the automatic anxiety that kind of lights up your physical body, so that you can make sure, is this a real threat in the world of physical form, or as another energy stimulated that I need to pay attention to, right? Because we are defining, in this case, we are defining feelings as energy moving through your body. So your intuition, so attachment anxiety is usually more urgent. It's more concerned with the integrity of the body. It's more about survival fears, okay? Attachment threats, seeking safety, and it tends to be an automated response based on past experiences. Whereas your intuition, on the other hand, connects you to a larger, broader, bigger, and I would argue spiritual aspect of yourself that has no urgent concerns because it is everlasting, right? And it sees your life from a moon's eye view and perspective. So this part of yourself can be difficult to access unless you have moved away from threatening people and situations that stimulate survival concerns and impulses, because there's just no room for it in that circumstance. You have to protect the body first. So intuition really emerges when you are calm, you're focused, you are listening for the subtleties of your sensations, the signs, feelings, and messages. And usually this requires that you create some kind of safe container, context, or ritual in which you are intentionally extending the invitation to that wisdom, okay? And so knowing that relationships might be a hot topic for you, for example, you might feel the butterflies and then note if there's a sense of urgency around it. And then ask yourself to just be patient with it, right? To just lean into the ambivalence, lean into the ambiguity, and allow your environments to continue to move around you until new information and clarity emerges. So you learn to be still with doubt. You learn to be still with not knowing, and to be okay with not having to take action or make a decision right away. It's also useful to know that excitement and anxiety light up in the same part of the brain. And the difference is the narratives and the meaning that we assign to it, right? And the contexts in which we exist. And so I wouldn't want to give up all my excitement because I'm too afraid of anxiety, right? But I would pause to reflect on what the feeling is trying to tell me. And, another example of this, we tend to raise our voices when we're angry, but we also raise our voices when we're excited. If you've ever lived on top of a sports bar, you know what I mean. But if we don't know the language that each person is speaking, then we might assume that it's all bad. We might assume something and misjudge the situation. And so what we really want to do is learn how to speak our own inner language, to sift and sort through the subtleties of the emotions and the energy that's moving through our bodies so that we can understand what it means when our body raises its voice. Because both our survival responses and our intuition, they are embodied experiences. And so the trick is getting to know your body really well and the subtleties of the energy moving through it so that you can better discern their meaning and make better choices for yourself in curating your environments and in curating your partners. So I want to do a very simple exercise to illustrate what I mean viscerally and visually, okay? And before I do that, although I will make a recommendation, if you'd like to learn more about attachment styles and safety and proximity concerns, I do have a video on my YouTube channel. It's called Attachment Styles as Nervous System Responses. I'll leave a link to that in the replay of this video as well. And it'll teach you a little bit more about conceptualizing attachment as a nervous system response, okay? And that will speak to the attachment anxiety and survival concerns. So now I'm just going to invite you. You can do this with me if you want, or you can just watch and do it later. So I like to call this the triangle exercise, but in essence, you're just going to draw a triangle on the page. And when you say, oh, I feel anxious. So anxious is a big, I call it an umbrella term for recognizing an energy that indicates there are usually other more subtle threads and energies and feelings going on underneath it. So you might think of if you've got two sides at war with each other or in conflict, you might think of anxiety as the fog or the smoke that rises above the fray. So you're looking in the distance and you see the smoke in the distance and you say, oh, there's a fight going on over there. I better steer clear. But what we want to do is we kind of want to investigate and we want to find out what sides are at war, what parts of you are in conflict. So here's our, let me make sure you can see this. So here's our anxiety. Okay, so I feel anxiety, which means that I need to take a moment to lean in and investigate. I need to go a little bit deeper. That means there's a couple things in conflict. I need to find out what they are and create clarity around that. So you might drop in, you're feeling anxiety, so you might just drop it into your body. Where does the anxiety originate in my body? So for the sake of argument, let's say it's in my solar plexus, right? My abdomen. And when I go down there, what color is the anxiety? Well, maybe it's yellow, right? So I might color that in yellow. Okay, the anxiety is yellow. And if I go a little deeper, if I step into that yellow fog, what's the first form that you see? Well, maybe I see a crying child. Okay. So now I'm going to choose one of these bottom corners here on my triangle, and I'm going to create a representation of that child. All right. So I've got my crying child. Okay. Is there another character or part in that fog that seems to be protecting that child or disciplining that child, or somehow in relationship to that child, blended with that child and its expression? So let's say I see a parent who is protective, but they're protective by being too strict. So over here on the other side, they're in opposition. They seem to be in opposition to each other. I might draw a protective parent, right? And this parent maybe is a little bit domineering. They're sticking their finger up, hand on the hip, that kind of thing. Okay, so now we know that the anxiety is evolving from some underlying dynamic that's going on between these two characters. I'm just using two for now, but sometimes it can be more. And so let's say, okay, but so now usually inside there's a triangulation because there's also the part of you that witnesses the anxiety, right? That isn't quite overtaken by either of these two parts. So let's call this, I'm just going to put a star there. I'm going to call that part your observing self. You might call it your spiritual self. It's the part of you that's connected to a broader perspective that can perceive this relationship as we map it out, right? So what's in the middle? So you might imagine if this is like a baseball field and this is home base, right? Then this might be the pitcher's mound, let's say. And here you are standing in the middle. This is your ego. This is your personality. This is the way you sift and sort through your feelings. This is the part of you that can say, oh, I'm having a big feeling, right? So now we've just created this kind of what I think of as a visual anchor so that you can start to sift and sort and create clarity around what are the inner voices that are in war at this time. And instead of just calling it anxiety and then taking action right away and then throwing out the baby with the bathwater, we take a moment to look underneath it and find out what's going on here, because most likely this is going to express the underlying need. This is going to express all of the, let's say, I'm going to call them attachment stories, but maybe they're limiting beliefs. Beliefs around how that need is supposed to be met. This is going to be, I'm going to call it your higher self, that is able to look at and assume the perspective of each part and understand the needs and the desires and also the misperceptions that they carry. And ideally, you want your higher self to partner with your ego so that they can meet the needs of the inner child. Then they can satisfy the standards of the inner critic, right? Or the protector that exists inside of you. So that instead of these things working in operation, they're working in harmony. And that's your job, is to make sure they're working in harmony. Okay. So this is just a very brief overview of how we can, and a little exercise for how you might start to dig into a moment of anxiety. But I go into this a lot more in depth on my YouTube channel. I have a playlist called Hot Seat Interviews, and you'll see how we use this kind of anchoring image in practice to help you sift and sort through the anxiety and what it might be telling you so that you can instead tap into your intuition, right? And allow that to inform how you're going to integrate these different parts of yourself, heal the inner child, so to speak, right? And just let me know in the comments or in the chat there, how is this resonating with you? Does that make sense? Do you feel like that is helpful to you? If you did it with me, what are some of the parts that came up? What did you notice? I'd love to see that. And again, I'll leave a link to learn more about that in the replay of this segment. Also, remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I put out videos once a week and I wouldn't want you to miss out.